individual rights versus the broader rights of everybody across the society. Essentially, the majority of the Supreme Court justices were put in office by extreme right Republicans. And the extreme right Republicans simply believe make as much money as you can, exercise the strongest individual property rights that you can, and screw everybody else. If you didn't make it in this global competition, tough luck, live in the street. That's the attitude of the far right. And they appointed most of the justices. And so essentially the Supreme Court was saying, you know, look, the government does not have authority to regulate the environment. Well, are you kidding me? What company has the money to help the environment or regulate the environment? What private entity has the ability or the resources to fix the global warming problem? So let's just take some examples of that. If the voters have been listening to our videos, they know that I'm going to build at least 1,000 scrubbers around the country and around the world. What is a scrubber? It's a huge industrial plant that looks like a massive oil refinery. But what is it actually doing? It's pulling CO2, methane out of the atmosphere. It's crystallizing it and burying it under the ground forever. So we're cleaning up the atmosphere. Okay, that's a scrubber. The other program, the big program in our global warming agenda, are desalination plants. We must pump water from the Pacific Ocean and re-aquify the southwestern part of the United States, the western part of the United States. We also have to pull water out of the Gulf, and the mid-states in the south all need a much stronger, robust source of fresh water. Even down in Miami and up the east coast of the United States, when we get inland, communities need a new fresh source of water. Water tables are dropping everywhere in the United States, and I'm talking about freshwater tables. Obviously, the weather patterns are changing. Mother Nature is not going to be able to refill those water tables in any natural way. So now is the time in human history where we pretty much have to take the bull by the horns and go in and start fixing these problems. Now, in the process of fixing these problems, we're going to have to use eminent domain in some cases. Of course, most of the time we won't, because we've got easements along highways and we've already got land the federal government owns. So, 95% of it is going to be doable with the resources already in the hands of the federal government, so to speak. But, there are going to be some places where we're going to have to use eminent domain, and we're going to have to get the cooperation of states and counties. We're going to have to bring a lot of different people to the table to solve these problems. But the Supreme Court tying the hands of the EPA in terms of managing these types of projects, or instituting regulations that prevent too much water extraction from the water table, or preventing industrial plants from polluting a certain amount of CO2 and methane in the air. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But it was as smart. The Supreme Court tying the hands of the EPA was about as smart as you and I going out to the closest interstate and setting up a picnic table right smack in the middle of one of the highways and expect to live. Okay, those are incompatible goals. We're not going to live. Okay, and if we do live, we're going to wind up in jail or the mental institution. But essentially, that's what that's what the Supreme Court did, and it was the Republican-appointed judges who are 100% fully responsible for that. So I'm using that just as a random example off the top of my head. There are many, many more we could go through, but that's a very good example of why we are shooting ourselves in the foot by continuing this lifetime appointment mindset for Supreme Court justices. We don't want to do that. So the Quigley administration, we're going to do everything we can, including continuing our campaign after the election results are published on November 4, 2024, and we win. We will still continue our campaign to force these changes to happen. We're going to get the support of the American voters. We're going to bring the American voters on board, and we are going to keep hammering away at these issues until Congress realizes that it's time to change.